A power-hungry judge thought he could silence Pam Bondi with insults and intimidation. Minutes later, he was the one in handcuffs. What happened inside that courtroom will leave you speechless. Pam Bondi isn't new to high-stakes legal fights. As a seasoned attorney, she's faced off against some of the most corrupt individuals in the country. But this time, the battle wasn't just about the case. It was about power, corruption, and a judge who thought he was above the law. The courtroom was packed. The case at hand: a massive government ethics violation that implicated some of the most powerful figures in the city. The evidence was overwhelming, and Bondi came prepared. But Judge Howard Gates had other plans. A man notorious for his sharp tongue and blatant favoritism, he wasn't about to let Bondi take control of his courtroom. Before she even spoke, he was already on the attack. As Pam Bondi stepped up to present her case, Judge Gates barely looked at her. Instead, he flipped through his files, letting an uncomfortable silence fill the courtroom. Then, he smirked. "Ms. Bondi, I assume you've prepared something of substance today? Or should we just skip to the part where you waste my time?" A few chuckles echoed through the courtroom, mostly from the defense team. Bondi didn't react. She'd seen men like Gates before. "Your Honor, the evidence will speak for itself." But Gates wasn't done. Taxpayer dollars, right? Because that's never been the foundation of a frivolous case before. Bondi clenched her jaw, but stayed composed. "Respectfully, Your Honor, I wouldn't call felony corruption charges frivolous." Their eyes locked. Gates leaned back, smirking again. He thought he was untouchable. Pam Bondi pressed forward, presenting financial documents that showed clear misuse of state funds. But every time she spoke, Gates interrupted, dismissed, or mocked her. Then, it happened. "Do you always insist on drowning people in paperwork, Ms. Bondi? Or is this just your way of compensating?" The courtroom went dead silent. Even the defense team, who had been enjoying the show, looked uneasy. This wasn't just bias. This was personal. Bondi took a slow breath. Then, with a calm, measured voice, she said, "Your Honor, if you'd prefer to make this personal, perhaps we should request a recess while we discuss any professional concerns you may have." It was a subtle but powerful warning, the kind that made everyone in the room realize something was very wrong. Judge Gates sneered, dismissing her once again. But Bondi had been paying close attention. And then, she saw it. A flicker of panic. He wasn't just being difficult. He had something to hide. She turned to the projection screen and clicked to the next slide. "Your Honor, would you like to explain why your signature appears on an unauthorized financial transaction?" The courtroom erupted. Gates froze. His usual smug confidence vanished. "That document is inadmissible," he snapped. Bondi tilted her head. "How so?" "It was obtained through a legal subpoena." Gates' jaw clenched. Then it was mishandled. The room shifted. The jury took notice. The reporters in the back scribbled furiously. And then, Pam Bondi dropped the bombshell. She reached into her case and pulled out a small recorder. She pressed play. A voice filled the courtroom. "Take care of it. I don't care how. Just make sure she doesn't get her hands on those ledgers." Judge Gates turned pale. The entire courtroom was in shock. It was his voice, caught, read, handed. The defense attorney paled. The defendant, the powerful developer who thought he was untouchable, sat frozen. Gates cleared his throat, trying to recover. "Ms. Bondi, I don't know where you obtained that recording." Bondi cut him off. "That's not the question you should be asking, Your Honor. The real question is, who were you talking to?" Silence. Then, a door opened at the back of the courtroom. Footsteps echoed. A firm voice announced, "Judge Howard Gates, you are under arrest." Gasps filled the room. Reporters grabbed their phones. Cameras clicked. Two uniformed officers flanked Gates. One reached into his pocket. The other pulled out a set of handcuffs. Gates tried to resist. "This is absurd. I am the law in this courtroom." Pam Bondi stood up, straightened her blazer, and said, "Not anymore." Click. The cuffs snapped shut around Judge Howard Gates's wrists. For the first time in his career, he was completely powerless. The courtroom buzzed with shock. The jury, the prosecution, the reporters, everyone knew they had just witnessed history. Judge Gates was dragged out of the courtroom, while the defense attorney scrambled to salvage what was left of the case. But it was over. Pam Bondi sat back down, calm, composed, victorious. Across from her, the defendant, the wealthy developer who had relied on corruption to stay protected, was unraveling. Pam looked him straight in the eyes and asked, "Would you like to continue, or are you ready to discuss a plea?" The man swallowed hard. His fingers tapped against the table. He was cornered. Finally, he exhaled. "If I talk, I want protection." Pam smiled. "Then you better start talking." And just like that, justice was served. One of the most corrupt judges in the system had been taken down by a woman who refused to back down. Pam Bondi didn't just win the case. She exposed an entire network of corruption. And trust me, this is only the beginning. If you want more insane courtroom stories like this, make sure to subscribe and watch our next video. It's even crazier than this one.